Hey guys, what's up? Nick here once again, and today we are revisiting one of my top viewed videos with the Steam Deck, which was my top 10 favorite games for the Steam Deck. This is kind of a part 2, if you will, so if you want to go see the part 1, I will have a link in the description below. But with that being said, we have 2 new games for you guys that I've been playing nonstop on my Steam Deck and absolutely adore. So let's get right into them. The first one is actually the Dead Space remake, which now has officially been confirmed as verified by Valve themselves. So we're going to jump right into it, and we'll give you guys some gameplay and kind of go over my overall thoughts of the game's performance. Alright, so now we're in the game, so let's kind of go over the main specs of how I run it. So running it at full screen, at the full resolution of 1280 by 800 at 60 Hertz. Vertical sync is off. I don't know why that was on by default, but we're going to turn that off for now. Going down into the actual graphics settings, we're using the AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution, or you can do TA, but I recommend the AMD one. And we're going to set to auto, and same with the graphics quality. We'll set everything just to auto for right now to see what we get for performance. So in the game so far, I'm just continuing playthrough I already started a little while ago. Looks like we're in the medical bay at the moment. And the game is a 1000% playable at auto settings. So as you can see, we are going to dip below 60 from time to time. So what I recommend if you want a little bit of a smoother experience is you can actually set the refresh rate down to 40 Hertz, and you can also set the frame rate to a 40 FPS cap. And as you'll see, you will get a little bit more of a smoother performance overall with the game. Now, the only downside to this is if it does dip below 40 FPS at all, you will notice some major stutters compared to running it at 60 Hertz with 60 FPS. Even though if it's below 60, it's kind of weird, but it's one of those things where just test it out yourself, and whatever feels better for you, definitely go with that. But yeah, Dead Space Remake is 100% playable on the Steam Deck, and it still looks, right there was a good example. If it ever dips below 40, it's a pretty big stutter. So probably with this game, I'd recommend probably staying with 60 FPS. So let's go back to that just to see what we get while we're going into a different area. We're back at 60 Hertz, 60 FPS. And we are getting a few dips below 30 for sure. And again, this is all on auto settings. So if we were to go in here and change everything to low, I'm assuming we'll probably get a little bit better performance. So let's set everything to low, and we'll set this also to performance mode. So far, it's still above 30. From my experience with most games on the Steam Deck, if it's above 30 FPS, it's 1000% playable, and it's still a very good experience if you're not really caring about the FPS. And most of these 60 FPS games look just fine running at 30. You don't really have to worry about it at all. But one thing I like to remind people is that just because a game is quote unquote verified by Steam on the Steam store for the Steam Deck, so many Steam words, does not necessarily mean the game will run perfectly. It does not mean the game will run at its official capacity or at the frame rate that the game is supposed to be ran at. So definitely keep that in mind. I recommend looking at reviews first of all before purchasing games just for the Steam Deck, even if it is verified, because you might run into some issues like that where, yes, the game launches and the game runs, but throughout the entire game, even on low settings, you might get stutters that kind of slow down the performance and make the game unplayable. So yeah, definitely keep that in mind. But I gotta say, from my own personal experience, I have done a full playthrough of this game on the Steam Deck, and I have little to no complaints. The game still runs just fine as long as you don't mind being below 60 FPS. And moving on to our next game, we're going to be looking at NBA 2K23. Now, I'm not much of a sports guy, but when it comes to the NBA games, I've always gotten super addicted to the My Career modes. Just creating your own character, putting your own stats in them, and just kind of going through the story mode and playing some games is a lot of fun. As you can see, I've even put 60 plus hours into this game, and just to be honest with you guys, that's all been on the Steam Deck. So if you want to know if this game is playable, yes, 1000% it is. I want to say I've only had like one crash on the Steam Deck with this game, but it was a really weird occurrence and it hasn't happened since. So yeah, this game runs really good on the Steam Deck, especially in handheld mode, which is how I normally play it. But for this video, of course, I've been using a wireless Bluetooth controller. But it is one of those things that, like, even if you're using a wireless controller, there's no input lag and the game still runs great. But this is coming from someone who only plays the single player mode. I have not touched the multiplayer. I haven't gone one-to-one against anybody that's a real player. So keep that in mind. If you're looking to play this against friends, you might run into some stutters and stuff like that in the online mode, just because I can't officially say if it works properly or not. But in terms of the single player, no problem whatsoever. And for NBA, going into the settings here, we're running it at the full resolution, full screen mode, anti-aliasing at 4. We got the 60 hertz refresh rate, vertical sync. I'm going to turn that off for in-game. And right now it's set to high, but I'm actually going to lower this. Let's go to medium just for now, and I'm going to apply those settings. And also I should reiterate that so far we haven't had to manipulate any of the settings within the Steam Deck itself. Everything is default at the moment. I'm even running it at 60 hertz refresh rate with no frame rate limit. So let's jump into a game and see what it looks like. So right off the bat here, we are getting a smooth 60 FPS on medium settings. Don't mind my terrible gameplay. I'm not really caring about that for this video. It's more just to show you guys some gameplay of it, but it's kind of difficult looking at. I'm literally playing the game through my external monitor on my camera, so that's why it's a little bit glitchy. But that being said, yeah, the game seems to be running just fine. And this is how my normal experience is. Now, I don't normally have the FPS counter on when I'm playing this game, but I literally have 0 to any stutters throughout an entire match with an NBA. And again, I've only ever had one little crash, and it wasn't that bad. And the game just looks really good, even on medium specs. Now, this is using an old engine. I know a lot of people have complained about that with the newer games. I don't recommend buying the newest of the new. You could probably even play like NBA 2K21 and just have the same experience here. You're just not going to have the updated rosters and stuff like that. But, you know, I understand the complaints of this game. I understand why people are upset with it. But does it run on the Steam Deck? Hell yes, it does. And it's a lot of fun. Man, I am terrible. And moving on to our third game, this is Flatout Ultimate Carnage. This one might be kind of a deep throat cut, but it's not a very well-known game, but highly recommended if you do have a Steam Deck and you enjoy racing games, especially arcade racers. Now, these are the guys that, of course, made the first ever Flatout 1 and 2. No, they did not make Flatout 3. That's the worst game of all time. Don't ever try it. And they also worked on the newer, I should say, Wreckfest, which is an amazing game by itself, which also runs great on the Steam Deck. But we're going to jump into Ultimate Carnage. Now, I want to say right off the bat, this game does not launch out of the gate. So if you were to buy it on Steam and you were to put it on your Steam Deck and try to launch it, it does not work. However, there's a ton of really nice people out there on Reddit and on YouTube who have made easy to follow tutorials on how to get this game to launch without any issues, and it runs very well on the Steam Deck. So we're just going to click OK there to open up the settings needed to launch the game, and let's get into a race. All right, so I ran into an issue for some reason with this game. It does not want to work with my wireless controller, but with the actual, like, you know, controls on the Steam Deck, it works just fine. And that's normally how I play this game. You're gonna have to see my grubby little hands right now. It's gonna be a little bit difficult to play. But I might have to turn the music off too, because this game has a lot of copyrighted music, but the soundtrack is a banger. Yeah, the soundtrack is a banger. Absolutely great soundtrack. Definitely recommend listening to it. But for the YouTube video's sake, I do have to turn it off, sadly. But yeah, this game runs beautifully on the Steam Deck, and it looks really good too. I mean, this is an older game. I think it came out in like 2010, maybe earlier than that even. But it's still a great looking game, even in 2023. It's a lot of fun. So this is Destruction Derby mode. There's a ton of different game modes in this. It would take way too long to go over all the game modes in Flatout Ultimate Carnage. But essentially, it's a racing game at its core with Destruction Derby elements. So there's tons of different vehicles to choose from different classes, from like derby to race mode to street cars. It's crazy. If you like the Fast and the Furious movies, you're gonna love this game. It's basically the best way to describe it. But yeah, lots of fun. This is a hidden gem. So if you like arcade racing, 1000%, I recommend checking this game out for the Steam Deck. A lot of fun. Moving on to our fourth game. I know this one's kind of controversial, it's sad to say, but hey, this is an amazing game and it could be game of the year. I would vote for it because this game I have been absolutely adoring from start to finish. I haven't finished it yet, and some of the gameplay it might show some spoilers, so just a little bit of a warning. But I've gotten about 40 hours of gameplay on this guy, and this is both intermittent with my Steam Deck and my gaming PC. So 100% yes, it does run on the Steam Deck, but we'll get into it when we get into the gameplay. And getting into the game settings here, we're playing on a windowed full screen mode at full resolution. We have the upscaling type at AMD FSR 2, which I highly recommend. And I have it set to balanced mode. I have tried it on other modes. Quality will see some dips below 30, which is kind of a bummer. And we do have a 30 FPS cap at the moment, running at 60 hertz. Now this, in my opinion, is the best way to run the game. Yeah, you're not getting that smooth 60, but for the most part, you're going to stay above 30, which is 100% playable. We also have VSync turned off and frame rate uncapped. And for the graphics, we have it on recommended, which is sadly everything at low. But the fact that this massive of a game can even run on the Steam Deck is honestly a feat in itself. So right now we're in Hogsmeade, which is one of the most like bogged down areas for performance on PCs. So running through it right now, you will see some dips from time to time below 30, but pretty close to 30. Like it doesn't go down to 15 or anything like that. It goes down to like 28, 29, 24. There we go. So that being said though, in every regular playthrough, if you're not looking at the FPS counter like I am right now, you're not really going to notice the stutters. At least I haven't. I got pretty used to them pretty fast. And the fact that I've been able to get almost 40 hours into this game without really many complaints about the performance on Steam Deck, I gotta say that this game is 100% verified to run on Steam Deck. So yeah, Hogwarts Legacy is a gorgeous game through and through. This isn't I will admit, this isn't the best way to get the grand scale of how this game looks playing it on the Steam Deck. But if you can get this game like on PS5 or on Xbox Series S or whatever it is, or on a really good gaming PC, playing this game in 4K, it will blow your mind at how pretty it looks. It's just a gorgeous game through and through. That being said, as you can see, we're even flying around the Hogwarts castle right now, looking around the scenic mountains and all that. Got pretty good render scaling distance as well, and we're still staying above 30, or at least at 30. We're not, we're not dropping below it, which is really good to see. So yeah, the game runs beautifully, and really you don't really have any complaints. I've been able to play a lot of the game, most of the missions on the Steam Deck, and really no issues to say. Now moving on to our fifth game, this one might be a shocker to some of you, but I am a huge Resident Evil fan, and Resident Evil 4 is still one of my favorite games of all time. I know I only have 60 hours here, but that's just on the PC version. I can't tell you how many hours I've logged into pretty much every version of this game. I had the original GameCube version, I had it on PS2, I got it on the Wii, and later on I got the HD remake, or remaster I should say, sorry. I got the HD remaster on PS3, then on PS4, and then now on Steam. Yes, I have put so much money and my heart and soul into this game. I absolutely love it. So I am very excited for Resident Evil 4 Remake, which is coming out next week. And before you ask, yes, I will be doing a Will It Run on Steam Deck video for that as well. And give me a little bit of time on that. I'll try to get it out as soon as the game launches, but I can't promise anything, and I hope I can get it done as fast as possible. That being said, the original Resident Evil 4 Remaster, Steam Edition, does work on Steam Deck flawlessly. I don't think I've ever had it dip below 60. I want to say it runs at 60. I'll have to verify that, but because I don't really watch the FPS while I'm playing this game. But in terms of like stutters and crashes and stuff, I've never witnessed that once, and I've done 2 full playthroughs on the Steam Deck of Resident Evil 4. And yeah, it looks like it runs at 60, so you're gonna get a steady 60 FPS with this game, no problem. All right, so we're back in the game here. Yeah, we're running at 60 FPS, absolutely no problems whatsoever. It's kind of a funny playthrough because I was actually using a randomizer mod on my main PC with this game save. So I hope this doesn't actually glitch out some of the stuff that's going on here. I don't think it will, but I just wanted to give a little bit of context there. But yeah, if you want to relive a timeless classic, Resident Evil 4 1000% is worth the price even in 2023, especially if you want to get ready for Resident Evil 4 Remake, because from what I've heard from the reviews, it's a 10 out of 10 game, and they didn't really stray too far away from the main game itself in terms of its story, gameplay, you name it. They just enhanced everything, which is super cool to see. So that is the Resident Evil 4 Remaster running on the Steam Deck. Absolutely no problems whatsoever. Highly recommended. And moving on to our 6th game in this series of my favorite games on the Steam Deck, we are looking at Spyro Reignited Trilogy. If you guys haven't played this and you were a fan of the Spyros of the original games, just stop watching the video right now and go play it. Trust me, it is the definitive edition, in my opinion, of the original Spyro Trilogy. I absolutely adore these games. I 100%ed all 3 of them on the PS4 when it first came out, and I think it was like a year later they came to Steam and I repurchased it again. But I've been absolutely adoring these on the Steam Deck. I did 100% the original Spyro 1 on the Steam Deck with this Reignited Trilogy, and I think I just started my playthrough of Ripto's Rage. So we're going to go into the Ripto's Rage just to show you some gameplay quick of it, but Yeah, the game runs flawlessly. It looks beautiful. I want to say you can run it at medium specs on the Steam Deck without any issues, but I'll have to come back to you on that because I don't necessarily remember 100% what settings I set it to. So going into the graphics settings here, we do have it at full screen. I am running it at 720p. More than likely, I'm using an FSR upscaler. We're getting that in a second. Max FPS unlimited. VSync, we're going to have that off. Motion blur is fine. We'll have that off. Graphics quality is custom. It looks like I have it at low for the bloom. Anti-aliasing is high. SSR medium. Ambient occlusion medium. Shadow quality medium. Foliage high. And the view distance quality is medium. So I definitely came through here and messed with it to make it sure it runs without any issues. And I also noticed I am running it at a steady 40 FPS, which tells me we are probably, yeah, we're running at 40 hertz, 40 FPS limit for the FPS. And then we also have a scaling filter of FSR at a sharpness of 2. So these are the settings I recommend if you want to try playing Spyro Reignited Trilogy on the Steam Deck without really having to suffer of playing it at 30 FPS, which by the way, is still playable. Don't get me wrong, but it looks a little smoother to me running it at 40 FPS with 40 hertz. So with that being said, we are in the game here, as you can see, totally playable. Even on the Steam Deck, man, this game looks gorgeous. Even with medium specs, I mean, you don't have to worry about it playing at low specs either. It doesn't really change that much the detail. This game is just gorgeous all around. The Toys for Bob, like, we already know you guys blew it out of the park, but I cannot wait for your next project. I think I've heard rumors they're looking at making their own Spyro IP, which would be super cool. But yeah, Spyro, Ripto's Rage, and all the other 2 games on this Reignited Trilogy run without any issues on the Steam Deck. So another game that I highly, highly recommend. I love these little cutscenes they added too. I know the original game had cutscenes, but they were not this fleshed out. And of course, they didn't look this good either. So yeah, as you can see, the game runs great. No problems whatsoever. This is definitely another game that I highly recommend on the Steam Deck. If you guys haven't already gotten it, because it's a lot of fun to play on the go. And of course, moving on to our 7th game, why talk about Spyro if we're not going to talk about Crash? So yes, they did bring Crash Bandicoot, the Insane Trilogy, to the Steam Deck, or to Steam, I should say. And then yes, it does run just as good as the Spyro trilogy on the Steam Deck, which is really great to see and really great to hear. They're all verified games, by the way, by Steam. So let's jump into it, and I'll show you guys the graphic settings here as well, and we'll do a little bit of gameplay. So as you can see, we got the first 3 games here on the Steam Deck. We're just going to jump into the first game to show you a little bit of gameplay, because they all run on the same engine, they all look the same, it's just the different levels and stuff like that if you've played the originals. And then really quick, going into the graphic settings, this one we are playing at the full resolution of 1280-800. I do not believe we have any cap going on. Yep, no frame limit, anything like that, and no scaling. We also have a max FPS of 60, turn on in-game, and we're going to turn VSync off. Motion blur is off. Preset is actually at high, which is really cool to see. So we're going to apply those settings real quick. Let's see what kind of performance we get. I remember this level being one of the most rage-inducing levels in my childhood. If you can agree with me on that, definitely give a like on the video. Yeah, we're getting a steady 60, no problem. And this game is also just as gorgeous as the Spyro trilogy, so gotta hand it to them for that. And they also just recently brought Crash 4 to Steam, which I'm very excited to try out. I haven't gotten it myself. That will be a game I will definitely play on the Steam Deck. It's running the same engine and everything, so I can't imagine it wouldn't run just as good as this one does. Made it, let's go. So yeah, this is the Crash Reignited Trilogy. I mean, it runs great, it looks great, and it's really fun for a handheld device to be playing, so highly recommend once again for the Steam Deck. And moving on to our 8th game here, it's Oddworld Abe's Oddysee New and Tasty. So essentially this was a remake of the original Oddworld Abe's Oddysee, built from the ground up with a brand new engine, and they haven't gotten nearly as much credit as they deserve for this amazing remaster, or remake you could say, of the original Oddworld Abe's Oddysee, which was one of my favorite games as a kid growing up. Super fun, very challenging, but the new and tasty version, it's gorgeous. It's still a 2D side scroller. They did not change up the gameplay at all. I think for some instances in the game that was a little bit too tough, for the controls were kind of a little bit iffy. They did upgrade them a little bit to make them more user friendly, which is great to see. But all in all, the same story, the same level design, everything is brought back just in glorious HD and with a brand new engine. So I gotta give them a ton of credit for doing that. And it kind of flew under the radar. A lot of people never heard of this game or tried it out. So if you're watching this and this is the first time you've heard of this game, please give it a chance. Give it a try. It's a really, really fun, engaging puzzle game. And before we get into it, the graphics settings here, we are running it at full screen. VSync is off. And yeah, they don't really have exact numbers here. It's just kind of graphs, but you can see I kind of have everything a little bit more on the medium side. So we're going to go into it and see what kind of FPS we get. And it looks like we don't have anything in terms of limits. Yep, we're running at unlimited cap at 60 hertz, which is really good to see. So let's jump into it and see what kind of performance we get. All right, so right off the bat, we are dropping below 50 FPS here and there, but it still feels pretty smooth. I'm not really feeling any stuttering or any type of delay with the controls, which is good to see. So in order to fix that, in order to help with the FPS, what we could do is lower the graphics quality a little bit. Let's try that just to see if we can get a steady 60. So it looks like it all adjusts everything in tandem, just like if you were setting the low, medium, high settings. So right now we were at medium settings here, but let's go down to low, and it looks like this is the lowest it can go, which you can really tell the texture takes a huge dip. Let's just try it at the regular low and see if we get any better performance. Surprisingly, the performance does not change really that dramatically at all. So I guess just for science, let's see what happens when we go to the lowest graphic setting. Now we are getting above 40, but still it's in that like high 30s. So kind of a bummer there, but hey, we can still run the game at 30 FPS. So let's do that. Let's put it at high settings and we're going to set it to a 30 FPS cap, and that should be just fine. We're going to go to the highest it can go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to set a 30 FPS limit. Let's see how smooth this 30 FPS feels. So far, very good. And this game, again, looks very gorgeous, even on this little screen. I can't really complain here. Whoops. But yeah, this is a puzzle game through and through. It might look like an action game to you guys, but it is a puzzle game. So it can become frustrating at times. You really have to think before you do anything. But it is a lot of fun and very satisfying when you kind of have to kill these bad guys that are trying to take pretty much your entire species away and eat you. I'm not even kidding. That's literally the plot of the game. But yeah, very fun game. Highly recommended if you haven't played Oddworld before. It is a gem, a masterpiece, and very underrated. But yeah, it definitely runs on the Steam Deck. So highly recommended. Rest in peace. And moving on to our 9th installment here, these last two games are going to involve emulation. So if you aren't aware, the Steam Deck is one of the best handheld emulation devices on the market right now for the price. You can put so many different old school games on here and emulate them with little to no fuss, and it's very easy to set up. I'm obviously not going to get into that in this video, but there's tons of tutorials out there on how to get emulation devices on your Steam Deck. For instance, you can put everything from Game Boy Advance, GameCube, PlayStation, PSP, Vita, PlayStation 3, and PS2, and so much more. I have a couple games, as you can see, in each one of these categories, but I'm going to go into my PS2, and one of my favorite games to come back to from time to time on the Steam Deck is MX vs. ATV Unleashed. Let's jump into it. This is another one of those games that has a banging soundtrack, and probably as a child, this is the game that really introduced me to a lot of the music I like today. But sadly, I'm gonna have to mute it for the video because of, copyright stuff, which does suck. But it is what it is. And you guys have probably noticed that some of these games I haven't gotten into the graphic settings, and that's honestly just because some games don't even really let you alter the graphic settings if they're an older title. And stuff like this with emulators, most of the time you can run these at a full highest settings they can go no matter what, because it's running on newer hardware. And on top of that too, again, most of these games don't even have graphic settings to mess around with in the first place, because back in the day they just came as they were. So if they didn't run, they just didn't run. But yeah, these games will all run at 60 FPS, no problem whatsoever. I don't even remember the controls at the moment. Right now I'm having a mind fart. But yeah, these games are amazing. Absolutely love the ATV series and the MX series. MX Unleashed is another really, really great game in the series here. But if you're looking for any type of emulation, the Steam Deck is where it's at. And this, again, is one of my favorites to come back to. Because even running it on this thing, like, I know this is a PS2 game, This came out in probably like 2005, I think, 2006. This game still looks really good. Like, yeah, if you take, you know, if you look really at the textures really up close at the ground and stuff, yeah, it looks like a PS2 game. But the animations and the driver themselves and the vehicles actually look really well done, really high quality. So coming back to these games, yeah, the graphics are lesser than they are now, but it really isn't that much of a hindrance. So it's still fun to mess around with and come back to from time to time. So MX versus ATV Unleashed, highly recommended to play on the Steam Deck. And moving on to my final game in my top 10 favorite games to play on the Steam Deck so far in 2023 is Skate 3. And this again is emulation through the PlayStation 3 Emulator on the Steam Deck. But I gotta say that it's amazing to me that even PS3 games can run almost flawlessly on a Steam Deck. It still blows my mind to this day that that is even possible. So very cool, and I'm really excited for Skate 4. If you guys are excited for Skate 4, let me know in the comment section below. I cannot wait to try out that game, especially to try it out on the Steam Deck to see if it runs. But coming back to these old classics, it just, you can't beat it, man. Like, it's just such a good nostalgic feeling. And if you're brand new to this stuff, like you've never played these original classic games, you are in for an absolute treat, especially that you can play this on the go, or, you know, plug it into a dock and play it on your big screen if you want. I mean, the fact that you can do that on this little machine is just, it still blows my mind to this day, almost like 6 months later since I got this thing. And let's make sure we don't have any copyrighted music playing at the moment. Pretty sure we do. Okay, we're good. I don't think this game has many video settings. Yeah, you can't really change much on here, which is fine. But right on the emulator, you can see we're getting around 50, sometimes 60 FPS, which looks really good. But it sometimes will dip below 60, which is fine. But I remember the one thing I had from time to time with the Skate 3 was it would kind of go in slow motion. And you might notice that from time to time on this video as well. It's just something you got to get used to. It's just a weird thing with the emulator. I have not been able to really fix that. If anybody in the comment section below knows a way to fix that, please let me know. I will love you forever, and everybody here who wants to play Skate 3 on their Steam Deck will love you as well. There's probably tutorials out there, I just have not found them. But that being said, if you can get over the few, you know, little hiccups here and there in performance, it still runs great on the Steam Deck, and it's 100% playable. I've played almost through an entire session of this game with the story mode on Steam Deck. I did beat the entire Skate 2 on the Steam Deck, so that is definitely something to brag about as well, but I just prefer Skate 3. I've always loved the map more on Skate 3, and the physics are a little bit more fun, so I'm just really excited for Skate 4. But yeah, this game looks amazing playing it on a handheld device like this, and being able to play this in the car, like on a road trip or whatever, is just, it's so mind-blowing to me, because I used to play this all the time back on the PS3 in my room living with my parents. So yeah, time really does fly. But that essentially has been it for my top 10 favorite games at the moment that I play on the Steam Deck. One thing I love to do with these types of videos is ask you guys in the comment section below, give me your top 10 games that either you do play on the Steam Deck or you want to play on your Steam Deck, or if you don't even have a Steam Deck, what games would you want to be able to play on the Steam Deck? Let me know, let everybody know. Let's have a great discussion down there. I love the community here. I love all the amazing comments and support I've been getting on these videos. I can't thank you guys enough. We are already headed straight for 17,000 subscribers on this channel, which is just mind-blowing to me. I still cannot imagine or believe that. It's just, it's crazy how much this channel has grown in the past 2 years. So sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, guys, thank you so much for all the love and support. It's truly been amazing. I hope to one day become a full-time YouTuber. That would be my ultimate dream. So if you want to make that dream a reality and you want to see more content like this, all you got to do is subscribe and make sure you hit that like button and maybe comment here and there. I think it does push the algorithm out as well. So you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you guys in the next one, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Peace out. Hey guys, Nick here once again, and I just wanted to pop into the very end of the video to give a special shout out to my channel members. If you don't know what a channel member is, essentially these wonderful people are using their hard-earned money to help keep the channel alive. So that's why I want to give a huge shout out to these guys, because they're amazing.
And if you want to become a member yourself, you can do it as easily just by clicking that little join button below every single one of my uploads, or just by going to my channel. There is 4 different tiers depending on how much you would like to support each month, and you can join for as little as $2 a month. And trust me, even if it's $2, it helps a ton, and it adds up at the end of the month so that I can get more games for you guys to review or make retrospective videos on, or to buy new technology such as new computer parts, or really anything to keep the channel afloat and to make more content for you guys. So with that, I want to thank Kenneth Fellows, Hull Healers, Boatworks and Restoration, Wade Lady, Vinny Severman, and Thrasher to Black Stallion. You guys are all amazing, and thank you so much for all the wonderful support. This channel is just growing and growing every single day, and I can't wait to see where this channel leads us. So with that, have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time. Peace.